Hey guys, welcome to my channel. So today's topic is about digital products, also about dealing with tech layoffs and what is next. Like three type of people that I see the people that are first time ever being impacted by tech layoffs, and then people that are like, this is my third tech layoff. And then there's people that I just, like I empathize with this situation, like people that have been within their company for 15 years and now impacted by tech layoffs. So it's so devastating and it just happens quite so often. But today's subject said I have my good mentor on here. They say sharing is caring. She's so great. Like I'm so grateful for her, like just from the start of my career because I cannot stress this enough. If it wasn't for her, I don't think I would have known anything about this tech culture and stuff like that because this politics is definitely politics in this industry. And I really came in like, I want to work in tech. Yay. Everything is so happy and jolly and there's a rainbow at the other end. Moving forward, our relationship have evolved. And today we want to talk about digital product. Thank you so much, Mikosa, for just contributing into the space, being who you are, being that black woman, looking out for a black woman getting into tech. I appreciate you. You already know that. Thank you for being here today and just evolving with me. I just love our relationship. I just love where we at today and how our mindset is at the same place at the same moment. So thank you for all your advices and everything. And like I said, I'm sharing with you guys my good mentor. Like she's great. Like you guys will love her. Like check out her TikTok, check out all her handles. And when we recorded this, she was at 400. But right now, her TikTok is like not there anymore. It's like way more followers at this moment. So kudos to you, like just doing this and contributing to space, helping people navigate through this anyhow, in any way from your learning and your experience. So much gratitude to you. So let's get into it. Let's get into this gem that she's about to drop. There's always something to learn from Mikosa. So a little background about Mikosa. We met around 2 years ago. Ever since then, like our relationship evolved. It started off as saying about tech and
Mhm.
me pivoting to tech, and then today is like a complete opposite of what we talk about today. We talk about
Yeah,
everything. Actually, I like to consider you my friend.
I would say you're my friend. I would. Like, I would say that you become my friend. It started out very professional, like, "Hey, let's
Mhm.
communicate about these things," and I just truly believe, like, in women of color in tech, and so I made it a really strong preference for myself to make sure that if someone asked me that was a woman of color about technology and I could help them in any form or any way, I would do that. And so I we
Yeah.
hit it off. It was great. You were easy, fun person to chat with, and not only that, you like were willing to move forward in things. So if I gave you something, you would go and do it, and then you'd come back. And I was like, okay, I see you. I see you doing what you do. So yeah, no, it's been so fun just like watching you over the last 2 years and seeing your career develop too.
Yeah, and I think like there's one thing that even off of like anything we discussed, I do really appreciate you. And I think you definitely put a battery in my back. One thing that always resonated with me that you said is that pay it forward. Like
Hmm.
just like how I'm helping you out, make sure you help somebody else out and
Hmm.
make sure you pay it forward because it's like a small number, a percentage of us here in tech and
Yeah.
we have to have each other's back. And I appreciate you just giving that advice and I'm even giving that advice moving forward in my career. So thank you so much for everything, for just
Absolutely.
being someone to lean in on and like being that person. You know, when people say when they come into tech, they didn't have no one to let them know about anything
Mhm.
in tech. Thank you for being that person.
Thank you so much. I think it's an honor and a privilege to get to walk people through processes. Like, sometimes we get put into places we don't know why we're put there. And I happened to land one of those great jobs at one of those Fortune 500s and I learned. And I just kept running into the same roadblocks. And I was like, I'm choosing something different. I'm going to show up as a recruiter, but I'm going to show up in like the best way that I can.
So that also leads to our next question. I know we said we met, but we didn't say where we met.
Yeah, yeah,
So,
yeah.
want to
Yeah.
chime in
Yes,
that?
I'd absolutely love to chime in. So that brilliant company that I started working for was for Target Corporate. And so I work specifically in technology in connecting people to a couple of our services. So back-end developers, front-end developers, UX, UI, any of those spaces. So now I've been in recruiting for about 15 years. So I've done different types of technical recruiting, but like Target is a different ship. Right. And so it very quickly realized as they were asking me to find candidates that I knew that most of the candidates that I talked to would not necessarily know how to manage the target engine, is what I call it, because there's a lot of people involved and there is a specific type of candidate that they really like. And so when we met because I think it was a LinkedIn connection and you reached out and said, "Hey, I'm interested in doing UX UI." Yeah, that's right. She was on LinkedIn. LinkedIn works, guys. LinkedIn messages worked. And she didn't ask me for a job. She actually just asked me to connect, which I'm willing to connect to anybody. Sometimes when people ask me for a job, it's a little bit like, okay, like what kind of job, right?
Mhm.
What job, what place, like give me more information. As a technical sourcer, my job was to pre-source, meaning to pre-find out places that I could place people. And I was reaching out to learn about their story and learn about who they were. And so we connected on LinkedIn. You were like, "Hey, I have questions about Target." I think we said to get to know you, which is one thing that Target likes to do. We don't like regular like pre-screens. We like get to know yous, right? And we got to know each other. And I just asked her some questions about where she was at, what kind of skills she had. And then I started just connecting her with people in departments that made sense. Right. And so she was able to connect with those people and they got back to me because I always monitor that. And they said, "Hey, we think she's a really great candidate. We're working on a little bit of her portfolio. So it like meets the target standard or need that we need." And she continued to meet with other people. And that's like kind of how our relationship started. And we just communicated back and forth during that process. Um, it was great, and also like she was able to take that information and synthesize it out to other people, which was like what was really helpful for people like me who are trying to find those great candidates of color in technology.
And I can say like I met some great people, honestly. I can say that there was probably part of the pivotal, or not really pivotal, but one of the projects that I worked on with someone from your company is
Mhm.
one of the reasons why I probably landed my first job in tech. So
and,
thank you
and
for that.
and one thing I will say about that, right, like, and we talked about this, she
Hmm.
didn't automatically just like get in at Target, right? But
Yeah.
the the tools that she learned from that Target interview did help her land the job, and people at Target were willing to help her, like look at her portfolio and build it
And you
and
still are in
walk through the
connection with
whole
them to this
entire
day.
thing. Yeah, and she's still communicating with those people just like I do. And
Hmm.
so it's just really important to know that even if you go to one of these big companies, you don't get in,
Hmm.
still connect because you don't know how that connection is going to play out in your life. You just don't know.
Yeah, that's true. Because I feel like people just they don't get a job from someone and just like, oh, let me just move on to the next person. And
Yeah.
it shouldn't be that way. It's like building connection. Because even if that person can't help you at a job at their company,
Hmm.
they can probably help you get a job with someone that they know in their connection because you guys have built a relationship
Hmm.
just from connecting with each other.
Hmm.
Now we in
What's
a
that?
whole different space. And
Yeah.
how has life changed for you since then? Since we met, like it's totally
Oh,
different now.
yeah, it's totally different now. Well, okay, so let's just start about a couple things. I was a contractor at Target, and so that's what my professional career. I'm an HR specialist, and I oversee talent and strategy, and I also look at trends, marketing, and then also like I specifically love doing diversity sourcing. So looking for candidates of color that are very specific in in the areas we're looking at hiring, whether it's AI or back end engineering or whatever that might be. So after I was done with that, I decided to take this little like step into something new. And Target, my contract ended, and they said, "Hey, would you ever be interested in working in marketing as a project manager?" Now, when you work in HR, you are kind of like a project manager. Like a lot of what we do in talent and stuff is project management based. So it's very much we're doing sprints. We're like kind of, they're named different, but it's the same thing, right? And so I got to sit down on some really cool campaigns for Black Beyond All Measure, which is like one of their spaces. I worked on the entire marketing campaign from start to finish for different quarters. And that was, I've worked in marketing before, but this was like full on marketing. And so I very quickly realized that there is a connection between branding and marketing yourself, right? And getting a job.
Hmm.
And I think a good chunk of our conversations that both of us have had have been around how we're showing up in spaces. And so very naturally it made sense that, like, as I talk to people, then I get really busy, right? Because you get new candidates and then I just don't have time to talk to every single candidate. And so a good friend of mine said, you should really think about making a digital product that you can share all the same information that you've always shared, I was like, I don't know how to do that. And and I have no idea where to start that with. And she's like, you helped me so much in this recruitment process. I think it'd be really helpful if you had a product, because I would send it to my friends or vice versa. So I started researching on TikTok, YouTube, you name it. I was using all my mediums, took a couple courses, and created my very first digital product. And the funniest part about all of this is that, like, in digital products, like, one of the things that we always say, a digital product is something that you can physically download. It's often a guide, it could be an ebook, it can be a physical document, it could be a how-to guide, it could be a physical course, right? Like, you can do full-on courses. The thing that I loved about digital products that made sense for me is that it was a way for me to reach a broader audience with the same information that I had needed to give my friend right here, right? And so when it came down to it, it was like a no brainer. Like, I need to spend some time and develop some of these products and do some more research about how I can get this information in the right hands of the right people, right?
Next question. How do you handle unexpected life changes and pivot when
Mm.
things don't go as planned? Because I think that's where we're both at the moment.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it's so funny because I hate transition. Can I be really honest? Like, transition is not fun. So, when I was working at Target, I was in that marketing campaign. The campaign was fantastic, but, like, so my project ended and they said, "Hey, we really love what you do. Would you be interested in working in Christmas?" And I said, "No, I don't want to talk about Christmas ever. Like, that's just not my thing, right?" And so unexpectedly, I found myself in this space where I'm like, oh, what am I going to do? It started this digital product thing. And I thought, I'm just going to take a shot because I have nothing to lose. I have summer, right? I have a beautiful daughter who's like 10 years old. She is home all summer. And I was like, I'm going to work on digital products. I'm just going to kind of do what I do and see kind of what happened. And that has really blown up for me. And so there is something about when we hit these moments of unexpected changes, that unexpected changes do not equate to failure. And I'm going to say that again. Unexpected changes do not equate to failure. Failure is this, like, thing, right? Like, that sits on our shoulder and is like, you aren't working at these companies, therefore you are not valuable. Or it's that thing that is pointing the finger back at you, like, you did something, therefore you, and you end up with a finger pointing at you. And shame hops into that and makes you feel inadequate,
Mhm.
right? And then you go and actually apply for jobs, and you apply for, people are applying for 50 to 100 jobs and not hearing anything back. And so you add that on top of that kind of transition, it can be really overwhelming and devastating. And, when I talk to candidates, especially since the very last couple layoffs that have happened in technology, it shakes people to the core when they hear, like, hey, I was doing a fantastic job at my company isn't doing well financially, I got laid off, and I don't know what to do. And I just remember, like, in that moment, just pausing, because I do think that life sometimes causes us places or brings us places to pause, right? And in pausing, we can evaluate and see what's going on around us. We can look at the systems that we have in place, because sometimes, in my world at least, when I get a pause in life, a layoff, you name it, like, get let go, whatever that is, there's normally some foundation building things that need to happen within me for the next thing that's to come. And so, one of the things that I think we both talk about and have talked about a lot is that when that happens, we are always learning, we are always growing, and we are always branding ourselves in everything that we do.
That really resonated with me. And I'm
Mm.
sure it probably resonated with everyone that's like in tech, and because you see all the time tech
Mhm.
layoffs, tech layoffs.
Mhm.
My company just had laid off a lot of people. So it really resonated with me, and I'm sure like other people have other talent out there that can, probably hone into their other talent and do something with it. So that's real right there. I appreciate that advice.
And can I just add something to that too? Like, one of the things I think we talked about pretty early when me and you were chatting was just a little bit around how in tech it's really smart to have like multiple streams of income, right? And I know this is like something that's like it's really popular right now, side hustles, affiliate marketing, all these multiple streams of income. But when you're in a company, it is very good to have a secondary stream of income, especially if you're in tech, because tech follows the market. And if your company is financially sound, that's not a problem, right? But if your company the last couple quarters hasn't done really well, or isn't functioning at the peak performance, you do need to start like adding things to your plate in a way that help you make extra income on the side. Whether that's like hustling on Fiverr, right? Like if you're in tech and you do anything in tech, you can sell on Fiverr, you can sell on Upworks, you can literally get side clients. Anytime you meet somebody that says, "Hey, I'm doing A, B, C, D, E, F, G," I'd be asking questions and make sure you look at your contract rules before you just take that extra side hustle money because some of you have contracts and proprietary information. So be aware of that. But I am always telling people like, I survive a lot of these things because I always have somewhere between 2 and 3 income streams coming into my life while I'm working in tech as a recruiter or any of those different spaces.
So my next question is, when life throws lemons at you, how do you stay motivated and learn new skills? Something that you would usually say, remember, downtime is not a sad time. It's an opportunity to pause, reflect, a form of self-care.
Yeah, yeah. I'm really big into self care because I think of your entire holistic self as a brand, right? And so if you want your life to look different, then your brand and you have to do things differently. So if you feel like you wake up and you're drinking like 9 cups of coffee and you're running around with your head cut off, you're going to produce more of that in your life because that is what you're giving off. Therefore, that is what people will give you. Like a little bit of chaos, right? And so, a couple things that I have that I've always just kind of incorporated is number one, I do work with a coach. I mean, sometimes you got to spend money to make money, right? And so, having a physical coach that can like walk you through some of these business strategies and help keep your goals in check, you can 100% like try to do this on your own. I know people that do it. I can't. I work better with deadlines and people that I'm responsible to. So for me, I pay for a coach. The second thing I pay for, I always say my values and my morals are pretty foundational to who I work for and what I do. So I also have a spiritual director. I'm Christian background, right? I have a spiritual director that I use. And then I also have a physical counselor that I use just for business. Now I have a personal counselor that handles everything else. But if you're a Black woman in business and you are in a leadership position and you are doing a lot of putting out, like you're giving a lot out, there's a lot of things that happen that sometimes you need to discuss. And if you're a clear headed person in those places, you can make better decisions because you're taking care of your mental health. Lemon the lemonade moment. For me, what that looks like is if I'm not doing my counseling once a week, I immediately start that. Number two, I always tell people to apply for unemployment. Even if you don't know you can get it or not, just apply. There's no harm in applying. They'll tell you if you can get it or you can't. And then number three, I just talk about making sure that I start scheduling things for myself to do each day because I function better when I have a schedule. So I like to do a combination of learning, whether it's a Coursera course, new certification, that kind of thing. I also am a big TikToker. I am constantly curating my TikTok stream so that I am learning the newest technologies in AI, the newest recruiting strategies, the newest project manager. I follow hashtags and I do that pretty consistently and I limit my time, right? I don't spend all day, but I do spend a little bit of time. And then the last thing that I like to do, just like as the holistic part, is to really have someone that's outside of me look at where I've come from because I easily forget how much I've grown because when you're in it, you're just doing it, right? But sometimes that's what that spiritual director does for me. She normally says things like, it's okay because life is about learning. It's not necessarily about winning. And so if we're here to learn, what does this look like? What did you learn? And she helps tie those gaps emotionally for me as a woman and helps bring me back to the main and the plane of what I'm doing, which is helping women of color get into technology, right? And helping people understand their personal brand.
So you did say that your friend is the letting you know that this digital marketing would be a place for you. So how did you
Mhm.
find passion in this?
Digital products have been around for years and years and years. If you think about it, like coaches is what I first think I heard about more digital products and people selling stuff digitally. Like coaches have these programs, right? You look at the biggest coaches in the world, like Joanna Gaines or whatever. They every large scale creator, if they have a product that they're selling, they often will sell it in some digital form. The thing I think I didn't know about that was I saw it. I just didn't have any idea of how to create it, put it together, put my thoughts together. That all sounded really overwhelming, to be completely honest. And I come from an academic background, and so when I think about a book, I think academic books. And so that just sounds exhausting to me, to be completely honest. She had to convince me for quite some time to like think about doing it. And I think the way that she described it to me is she said, "I want you to just start following a couple of these creators that I have followed." And so I was like, cool, I'll just follow them. And I was like, oh, as I started following them, I started realizing that I liked what they were saying. I started to understand the value of what they were saying. And when they pitched something to me, because they didn't actually pitch a lot of anything to me for a really long time. I mean, I think I followed some of these people for 2 to 3 months, and it's like they're just chit chatting about their life. But I become invested because I am that client that often needs that product, right? And so I was like, well, this is interesting. I'm wanting to hear what's going on. Every time that they come on, I'm wanting to respond to their messages. And if she says that there's this thing on Instagram, she says it and I start opening my thing without consciously remembering that I'm doing that. That is something else. And in marketing, that is helping the buyer understand the emotional need for something, and she was getting it. And if she probably put in front of me anything, I would have just bought it. Does that make sense? That's how invested I was for not being very invested in digital products, right? And so I thought, if this is what happens to me when I do this, I talk to people all the time, but I only talk to one at a time instead of a lot. And so I just thought, this is really translatable. Like, why wouldn't I be putting my information about how do I get into Amazon as a technology person, because I've hired from them before, right? Like, these are all things that people want to know, and information is power.
Tell us about your experience with selling digital products.
Yeah. So when I first started, like, I didn't sell anything because I didn't know my audience very well. And so, when we talk about branding and technology, like, it's really important that you know the audience that you're speaking to. So I speak to engineers all day. Engineers, they don't have time for that. An engineer will go and look for an answer before they're actually going to call someone. And so when thinking about trying to engage engineers, I had to think about, how am I going to build this brand so that they actually want to talk to me? Because I know if I get them on the physical phone, they're going to love Target, right? They're going to love whatever it might be. Digital products works the same way. It is the platforms that you physically use in order to do this are going to create your target audience, and knowing the platform you need for your target audience is really important. And so I spent a lot of time understanding my target market, understanding the age of my market, where they shop, what they do, what kinds of products do they like looking for. Do they like to go to a salon, or do they like to actually go to a spa? Are they people that would drive their car, take public transportation, or vice versa? Are they nurses? Are they doctors? Like, I created a very extensive customer profile. And then from that space, then I was able to like kind of relook at where I was marketing. And so for me, the win was TikTok, and the second win was Instagram, because my customers, I work with a lot of moms in the corporate world, moms wanting to leave their 9 to 5 job. I work with a lot of like men too that want to do an extra side hustle, but they maybe want to do something that's more automated and digital. I work with coaches, a lot of coaches. I work with recruiters who are in the process of trying to build markets or trying to get into new markets. AI is a new tech market for us. Like, AI didn't exist 5 years ago. So like now we have to find people that have been doing it for 7 to 10 years for all of our jobs, right? Because companies want experienced people. So we have to build those markets. And that is a ton of customer research. And so for me, that's what it looks like.
How do you establish yourself as a personal brand, and what steps do you take to showcase your unique identity?
I always start in value work, right? So whenever someone says to me, "Hey, this is who I am," I always go back to the who and the why. Why are you even doing this, right? And I know this is like it seems so elementary, but it's so important because you have to bring everything back to the why. So let's just say that like I'm a truck driver, right? And I'm just going to give an example so you can understand how this like works in its space. So let's just say that I am going to an event. I have this like deal and I have something that like I need to go to. I get in my car, I'm all dressed up, my car breaks down on the side of the road. Okay. This is how this statement works. So the truck driver walks up to you and he says, "Hi, I'm so and so and I drive for this company and we drive trucks across the United States. And if you look at the wheels on our trucks, the trucks look like this. And then if you also want to know, we also have trucks that go from here to here. And also if you also want to know, we also do this and this and this and this." And in that moment, you don't want to hear that. You're not That's not answering your problem. And now I'm going to like redo this so that you can understand how it makes sense and how you connect back to the why. So if you're on the side of the road and that truck driver comes back to you again and he says, "Hi, I'm from tow trucking and we're going to get you on the road in 15 minutes flat. Do you have any questions about how we can do that?" Do you see how you connect to the why? The why is they called you because you need a tow truck, right? And that messaging directly connects to the person when you do it that way. And so when you think about branding and you think about jobs, like let's just talk about a job. If you are coming up and you are saying, "I am a developer and I do blah 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 blah," and like that's what people do to me in interviews. They just tell me all their things. I don't want to know other things. I want to know how you can solve my problem, right? And so I want you to know about my company, but more than that, I want you to know about my culture of my company, and I want you to be able to solve my problem. I am known for being able to build systems in a quick and efficient manner. And here's a couple of examples of how I've done that. Does that make sense? It's just a little different way, but it is very important in branding. And so if your messaging is, "Let me tell you everything I've ever done," I don't need to hear that, to be completely honest. I want to know if you can solve my problem as a recruiter.
Facts. Dropping some gem for us here. Definitely drop. She always drop gem. Like honestly, I'm always learning a lot from Mikosa. So, final question. This is kind of like, you know,
Mhm.
it's a personal in a way, but you can choose to answer it either professionally or personally. What is one thing that is currently saving your life?
Such a good question. I love that question. I'm gonna say personally, it's my date night once a week. It sounds really funny, but like date night saves my life once a week because it's my reset to remember like why I do what I do, right? I married a soccer loving husband. I can't tell you how many times I've been like frustrated, upset, had moments, and like we do date night every single Thursday. Thursday night, I'm from Minnesota, so I'm like, we do date night. And so on Thursday, I block off time and I do not let anything interrupt that time. Even if my kid's here, I'm like, we will find a sitter, we will pay the money, we're doing this, or or I'll figure it out. But we have really committed to like date night and dating each other. And it's funny because whenever you're close to people, right? Like if you're close to somebody, you sometimes forget that they're for you. And so it's a reset for me. And so in my life, I've had more fun going to concerts on a Thursday night when I normally wouldn't do it, or just like going and getting beers at a brewery, or like walking around downtown like you would if you were dating your spouse before all the stuff happened. Like it's saving my life. And in that moment, I also get to share, right? It's not just that we go on a date night, it's that we do all the business stuff in the front, right? Like let's talk about schedules, all that stuff. And then in each time we meet, we also say, what's one thing that we just love that you're growing in for each other? And then what's one thing that we really love about marriage and what is going on in marriage? And that has literally been the funnest thing. 90% of my trips that we are going on this year, Belize, whatever, are from those date nights. And that is how like my spouse is loving me well in the process of me trying new things. But yes, date night would be like my thing that I would say. That's a great question too.
Well, I'm glad for that advice. I need to take that in consideration for myself too.
Mhm.
with my 4 year old.
It's hard when the babies are
Yes.
it's hard. It's really hard to just walk away. But I it's so important because those babies will leave at some point in time and it'll be you and whoever you're with, right? If that's your wife, if that's your husband, it's you and whoever you're with. And you have to like each other through the good and the bad. And if you spend the time and you invest in it, it's going to produce fruit.
Oh, I love it. I love to hear it all. One thing I can say about Mikosa is that I can say outside of this digital branding, there's always something to learn, either interpersonally or tech. I just feel like I always get so much value from you, and I really do appreciate you. And thank you for contributing. I want you
Absolutely.
back because I feel like we always have some conversations that I feel
Always.
like
I would love to
can
come back. I think
people can
sometimes
learn from, gain some value.
Yeah, I think sometimes it's just, I people ask me often like, we don't hang out, and I'm like, well, that's because I'm hanging out with people doing things that I'm doing. I'm not hanging out with people that are sitting in their house doing nothing. Like because I am constantly putting myself in a place of risk and a place of growth.
Hmm.
I think that's the one thing that I will say about you is that you are willing to always put yourself in a place of risk. And that is why I spend time with you because I don't need to be around people that are doing what I used to do. I'm trying to do something different, right? And so finding community within like technology and connecting and reaching out to her, like reach out to her, she'll respond to you. She's not a joke. She literally will answer your emails the same way that I will answer my emails. And if you want mentorship or if you want to be more invested, then ask us because not all of us are going to say no. I'll say yes if I have the capacity to do it and it makes sense for me to do it and it follows my vision and my branding, right? But if I don't, I'm going to connect you to somebody. That's the one thing. I think that's the thing that I love about our relationship is connection. That she connects me to people that I would never ever meet because she is out there doing stuff. I connect her to people that I've met because I'm out there doing stuff. And together, we do way more than we probably ever do by ourselves. So,
But it's also about building a community,
yeah.
not just being like, okay, I just want this from you and that's that. Like, building a relationship. I feel like some people that I build a little community with, mentees and stuff, is always like a bit of frustration when they don't get what they want from someone. And
Hmm.
it's not really about that also. It's just about like building a friendship in this industry. Like sometimes you come into this tech industry, you don't really have any friends because none of your friends in real life don't really know much about tech. They think it's probably like some of them would say in the beginning, is it a scam?
Hmm. Hmm. Well, they
Because of
just
the
don't.
pay and the
Yeah.
certifications and stuff. So it's great to build a community with people within and then
That
uh,
beautiful saying that says, always bring someone with you. And, I wouldn't be here if it wasn't for mentors that brought me into the room. I would not be at Target if it wasn't for me meeting an HR manager on LinkedIn like 5 years ago and investing in that relationship. In this world of jobs, it's all in who you know. The reason sometimes you don't get a job is not because you're not qualified. It's because 6 months ago, I already talked to that candidate and I already connected them with people. And so when the job comes up, we already have it filled. It's not because we don't like you. It's because the connections start months before the job ever happens. So even if you are looking for a place to be in tech, and I feel like this is always a hard moment for people, but it is about networking. It is about connecting. It is about following up with people. I'm an automations person. The one thing you're going to get from me is I'm going to do my best to follow up with you. And if I say I'm going to respond to you in like 2 months, I will literally put it in a boomerang calendar with my preset message and I will respond to you in 2 months. That is how we do this business. You don't have to have it all together in your mind, but you do need to learn some tools and skill sets and how to do it. And then the second thing, the language of making over $150,000 annually per year is a different language than what you speak when you're making less than $150,000. It is a different language. It is a different expectation. It is a different expectation of how you interview, how you display your questions. If you want the big money, you're going to have to do some investment in yourself in order to make sure that you are showing up into those spaces as you, because I don't want you to show up as Jan over here or anyone else. I want you to show up as you, but I want you to take those methods and that methodology and become a great candidate because A lot of people, have
And
that.
when you say investments, like I want people to understand it's not like a school tuition investment.
No, 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 no. This is
It's
like
not that big of an investment. Like you're not going
This
for a
is like
bachelor of
I
science
used to
degree.
do I used to do mock interviews, right? If you want to know how you
Hmm.
show up in an interview, record yourself while you're interviewing someone and send it to a recruiter that is a friend. Everybody knows a recruiter, or knows of a person that knows a recruiter, right? You send it to them and you say, "Hey, can you just give me some honest feedback?"
The thing, like, there's something we didn't talk about reaching out because I feel like for me, reaching out was what helped me to
Mhm.
like speak the language, to like articulate myself, articulate my storytelling when I was a UX designer coming in. Because
Yeah.
I felt like, you can always take the books, you can always take the course, but when you're in the field, how are you going to handle it? So for
Yeah.
me, it was so new. Like, I talked to so many people because of you.
And how many
Let's start
did
off
you
with
send out?
you.
Do you remember what I said to you when we first started? I was like, "You're going to send out 10
Yes.
messages every single day for the next month." And you were like, "Oh, okay." And I was like, "Why?" Because if you send out 10 messages, the average amounts of responses you're going to get is 2 if you're good. That means you have a 20% closing ratio that a message will be responded. Some people's ratios are higher. Mine is like 8, 7 to 8, because I'm pretty good at sending out messages and getting people to respond.
I
But
feel
if
like
you never
right after
do it.
I talked to you, I probably got in contact with a good like 20 different people
Mhm.
from Disney to um, Warner Brother Music, Macy's, a lot of people. I can't, it's just a
Yeah,
lot. I talk to people across the board. Like, I guess like you put that battery in my back, but I think people need to know that because I feel like I come across people and they just like always discouraged because people don't answer them. But just keep
mhm.
trying. Just don't stop. Like write something. I know that's another thing. People don't know if they're writing the right thing. Like just write
Start
something that you
somewhere.
feel like feels natural to you to ask someone or someone if someone was to even come to you and ask you a question, think about like how you will receive it before you write a message to someone.
And again, what is the why? Why are you reaching out? If you don't connect to the why, I'm not answering your message. So if like, I'm just going to give you a freebie here because this is what I told you when I said, when I reach out to people, this is what my message sounds like. It's like, "Hey, I'm Mikosa." And sometimes I'll say, like, "Hey, I just got done finishing a course or whatever in the area that they are in." And I said, "I know that you're probably really incredibly busy, but I would love to know if you would have some time to do a get to know you in the next 1 to 3 months. 1 to 3 months, not tomorrow because the job is posted. 1 to 3 months. I don't answer responses when I have a job posting because I've already done the work and I'm already in process. Does that make sense? Not because I don't like you, but because I already have candidates. Like, I don't need to find new candidates if I'm doing my job well as a technical sourcer, I have that entire job queue filled prior to physically posting the job. That's what Target paid me for, is to make sure those jobs are filled. So, but I would answer every single response when someone would say, "Hey, can I meet with you in the next 1 to 3 months?" Oh, and a tip here, if you have a Calendly link, Calendly is free. If you have a Calendly link in there, so I don't have to come back and forth and I can just put some time on a calendar for you, you're going to get my time. Does that make sense? You'll get 30 minutes. I will answer any of the questions that you have. I will do a phone call. We don't have to do a Zoom meeting. You're going to get my time. And so that to me is how I did it. Now, you sent out 10 messages. I sent out 10 messages every single day to multiple places and companies. I made a list of companies that I really loved, and I started sending messages to anybody who would talk to me. The admins. Oh, I send messages to admins because, admins know everything about companies. They'll be like, "You don't want to work here? This guy is a hot mess. You don't want to work here." And new people that have just started. If I started following hashtags of Target when I first started doing this 10 years ago, I'd follow hashtags just got hired at Target. Every time someone would get hired, I would send a message. And you know what? 6 out of the 10 times they would respond back to me because they're new in their job. They have the time to talk. And I would hear something about their interview process that I would gain that I didn't know, that I wasn't sure. I'd learn about a new department I didn't understand because my why is I really do want to understand what's going on in your company. And my message was geared toward that. It wasn't, "I need a job," right? It was, "I am looking to understand your brand. And I want to know what made you decide to stay there." And in those conversations, I then would ask for a referral. "Hey, I know that I might not be the best fit for like what that is, but do you know somebody that maybe is fantastic and really does love the areas?" And they'd be like, "Oh, I think I do." And then they would send me a referral, right? And then I would follow back up with those people after 2 to 3 months, right? I would follow up with the first month and just ask an actual question, not a question that's dumb, like an actual question that I had, like, hey, are you on Target's healthcare stuff? Like, are the premiums really reasonable? Do they cover a lot of things? These are questions you're gonna have anyway. Might as well find out because guess what? Sometimes I would meet companies and I was like, this is not my jam. I don't even need to work here because every person I've talked to has said this, this, and this. It doesn't fit my value system. Knock them off my list. Everybody has a different need for what they need in a job. I am not an Amazon person. I don't want to work at Amazon. It's too stressful for me. Now, is it bad? No, but for me, I'm not spending time doing that because that's not what I need to do, right? I really liked working where I was working because it was like a good fit for me. But those interviews, those little conversations, those networking things, before I started at Target, I knew tons of people in Target because I'd been working with them for years, right? And they knew me. So when I walked in the door, I had like a foot up, a foot ahead of every other new person that was there. And so people were like, you know a lot of people here. Well, yeah, because I've been building my brand in Target for years. So that's what I say about like you got to do the work, right? They have to know you. You want to get to the point that they know you and they say, when that job comes up, they say, does anybody know a UX, UI person? And someone says, I've been talking to this girl for the last 6 months. And let me just check in with her. That is what you want. And you can't get that by just like blasting a bunch of postings to people and applying for a million jobs. But that is how the world works in my spaces. People get jobs by the relationships that they have. It's not fair.
Facts.
It just is.
Facts. 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 Well, thanks for dropping those gems. Um,
Absolutely.
Thank you for coming on my channel today. I
Yes.
appreciate you. We're gonna talk after this, like we usually do.
They're
And
just
also, do you mind like sharing your handles? I'm gonna put it in a description box for you
absolutely.
guys.
Absolutely.
Uh, just
Yeah.
let us know where people can find you. I know you said you have a TikTok, but I know there's other things
Yeah.
happening also.
So
So
on
can you say
TikTok,
that?
I think I'm known as Miss.Millionaire Mindset, right? So that is my thing. I always giggle because I think $1 million, that seems like a lot. But I'm putting it out there because if you put it out there, you know what? Sometimes the world answers. And so Miss Millionaire Mindset, you can find me on Instagram under Miss.Millionaire Mindset. You can find me on TikTok. I will definitely throw up those handles. And reach out to me, like if I can be of help for you in any form or any way in like looking at those jobs. All of my digital products are listed on there, so if you are interviewing for Amazon or you're interviewing for those places, reach out to me and I can help get you some access for that. And I just think, if you can learn anything at all from what I say, networking is king in this game. And knowing people and having friends to do it alongside you will change the way that this game works for you. And so I would 100% say reach out.
All right, thank you, Mikosa.
Absolutely.
Bye.
Bye. See you later.
I hope you guys enjoyed what me and Mikosa have brought to you guys. Please check out her handle. She is super great, very informative, so much to learn from her, especially in the space of tech and also branding yourself. Contact her, follow her handles, it's on the description box. Thank you so much. Comment, let me know what you think, what you like, and what you have gained. I would love to know you guys' feedback about this conversation. Thank you so much for watching.